Practical lesson: locating the building site and prepping the ground. First step is to decide where exactly to build our solar passive home and how to get as much sun exposure as possible or as needed. On the settings on your iPhone, you can choose an option to use true north versus magnetic north, but I would always double check it with a real compass and use the steps below to find the true south. We want to get maximum sunshine into our homes in the cold climate. Tilting a little eastwards from true north will welcome more morning sun. Should you wish to tilt away from true south, this should be a well-calculated decision, incorporating the following: major obstructions, beautiful view, how cold it gets in your area and for how long, how much overcast you have in winter, when does the sun finally start to shine in winter, and at what angle above the horizon. In order to find the true south and the positioning of your solar passive home, I have taken the following great set of instructions from the Greenhouse of the Future book. The ideal angle to position the greenhouse is 15 degrees east of true north. However, if a large obstacle, like a mountain or another building, hides part of the sun coming from the east, it is possible that the best solution is to position the greenhouse directly towards the true south, or even 15 degrees west of it. There is no set measure. The goal is to get as much sunshine as possible in the greenhouse during the day, so you have to adjust according to the land. Of course, if you move away from the true south, the efficiency of the greenhouse will diminish. We recommend an angle of 15 degrees east of the true south for one specific reason. The greenhouse cools down overnight, so the morning's first rays of the sunlight will warm it up again, unlike the rays of sunlight from the end of the afternoon, which are not as necessary because the heat will have accumulated throughout the day. Step 1. Before identifying the true south on the land, you first need to find the magnetic declination that differs depending on your geographic location. This declination is the angle between the magnetic north and true north. You can find this information on a recent topographic map of your area, maximum of 1 year, or by inserting the latitude and longitude of your location using an internet tool such as the following. For example, in Sherbrooke, Canada, the latitude is 45 degrees and 24 minutes north, and the longitude is 71 degrees and 51 minutes west. As of August 2nd, 2014, the declination is 15 degrees and 28 minutes west, so the magnetic north is located at 15 degrees and 28 minutes west of true north. Find the magnetic north using a compass. Position yourself on your land. The north is shown as the magnetic north. Find the true north. Once you know where the magnetic north is, simply add or subtract the declination depending on your situation. In our example, to find the true north, add 15 degrees and 28 minutes by turning towards the east in relation to the magnetic north. Step 3. Find the true north. Step 4. Find the true south. Now that you know the true north, just add 180 degrees and you will get the position of the true south. You can then orient your greenhouse 15 degrees east of true south. In the cold climatic conditions, having trees in close proximity to your home will black out much needed winter sun. If you're not buying your land in the middle of winter, then you need to be able to project how the trees will shade your building site. For example, where I live, the sun on winter solstice is only 9 degrees above the horizon. The tool to find this out is Sun Surveyor app or other alternative sites. Thus said, the shadows are really long, and even a dense forest of deciduous trees will stop the sunlight from going through. If you do not have any trees around your building site, then it is much easier to choose a site for the house. Having trees in close proximity will stand in the way of the sun, and thus will not allow much needed sunlight into our homes for months in wintertime. There is a tool on the phone called Clinometer, which allows you to find at what angle something that you're looking at, such as the top of the trees nearby. Combining the information of what angle the sun is at solar noon in wintertime with the angle from the horizon at the top of the trees from your potential building site, the Clinometer app, you will be able to project whether the trees will stop the sunlight from entering your home on the shortest day of the year or not. Let us discuss the shortest day on winter solstice. Also important to use one's location and discretion. For example, as I mentioned, where I live at 60 degrees north, the angle of the sun on winter solstice is only 9 degrees off the horizon. Coupled with this low angle of the winter sun, there is almost 2 months of non-stop overcast. Therefore, at 10 a.m. the sun comes up behind a thick grey cloud cover, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon it's already dark again. There's no sun to catch on winter solstice. When I consulted with Mike Reynolds about my situation, he recommended that I use the angle of the sun when it really finally shines. It's only logical. The Earthship literature, however, recommends to get the angle of the sun on 21st of December so that the glazing is designed to get perpendicular sunlight straight in. That's why Earthships have their windows tilted. Everyone's situation is different. Thus said, our sun starts shining steadily after the middle of Feb. This is why I also recommend it to live a little on the land or in the area if you have relocated from a different part of the world. Otherwise, ask questions from the locals and do your research online. No amount of internet data can compare to the real experience of being on the land or living in an area where you're wanting to get your home built. In the middle of Feb, our sunlight is already at 20 degrees off the horizon. How does that affect my design? Well, the pitch angle of the vaults from the back of the room towards the front is angled at 20 degrees to allow the sunlight to enter all the way into the room, warming up the mass of the back wall. My shape of the room with its side walls is also tapered as seen from the top, and this is done to allow as much of the sun's traveling path to warm up my side walls. I have implemented these design changes to the latest 2 Waterlariums. Sometimes you will see the Earthship walls painted light color on the top and darker color at the bottom, literally with a diagonal transition. This is done to welcome the low winter sun to warm up the dark colored mass. It is a good strategy that mimics nature. We will discuss the design of the Waterlarium home in tremendous details when we get to the relevant sections. I will do a precise 3D model of various parts so you have a 360-degree view of the subject discussed at hand. Getting back to our building sites. Now that we know how far from the nearby trees to position our home, we also know if there were a couple of deciduous trees that are standing in the way between the winter sun and our home, then they will not block out too much light. However, having a whole dense forest nearby our building site, albeit with all the naked deciduous trees that lost their leaves, these dense branches will act as a shield for the sun. I would always recommend to spend some time on your chosen land in winter to really see how the sun travels. Our sun is so weak in February and it's so damn cold, at minus 25 Celsius or minus 15 Fahrenheit, then the last thing I want is to have any trees shading out that much needed warmth. Your chosen building site might be completely different, much warmer and with a lot more winter sun, like in Taos. Then having a couple of deciduous trees in the way is totally fine. If you're choosing from a few various lands, this could be your crucial deciding factor should you wish to build a solar passive home in cold climate. Having a forested site in cold climate also has its own benefits, such as free firewood all around. With a mass heated floor like South Korean Ondol system, you will be warm even if you get no sun. I visited an architect in Russia that built such a system. He claims that he only needs to stoke the fire every 2 weeks. The Ondol floor system has a thick mass of 30 tons that heats up slowly as the fire travels between the super adobe channels below, then takes a long time to cool down, compared to a metal fireplace that we're currently stoking every 15 minutes from morning till nighttime. His furnace that channels a hot air into Ondol floor is so large that he doesn't chop the firewood at all. Instead, he just throws in large logs. It is a system I will be testing in the Waterlarium home as a backup heat, and I will share with you the design of the system later on in our Waterlarium training using a detailed 3D sketch. I will not get into too much details for the warmer climates, as you already know that shade in summer and warmth in winter are important. We will discuss warmer climates in future sections. Thus said, deciduous trees above your future house site are important. They will lose leaves in winter and allow the home to be warmed up, and then again leaves in summer, cooling it down and stopping the blazing sun. If you're living in a warmer climate, we can discuss this in the various climates and the changes in the design of the home section. Once you have identified the site, it is a good thing just to peg it out with 4 pegs and some string. Remember that if you have a lovely tree in your building location, you can always work with it. I wouldn't be in a hurry to remove a good old healthy tree. Domes could be built around the tree. The stump of the tree could be incorporated in the greenhouse roof. There is always a way to integrate healthy trees, even alien ones. If you really have to remove the tree and it's not too big, then you could always replant it. It is all site specific. If you have millions of the same trees all around, then make the necessary decision. In natural building, one doesn't have to bulldoze the site flat and remove all the old growth trees, only to plant young ones later. This is a traditional corporation way, but not our way. This decision also depends on the design of your home. My home design does require for me to clear out the 20 by 10 meter rectangle, and this time I will be using a bulldozer, as at my previous builds it took us 1 month to do what a bulldozer can do in 2 hours. Constructing a home in cold climate with a short building season gives you some hardcore reality checks whilst dropping those romantic ideas. Once you remove grass and shrubs, it is always good to climb on a ladder or van, so you can observe the new chosen building location within your larger landscape. A drone is also an excellent way to marvel at your building site from a bird's eye view. There might be something that you did not think of or see, such as a washed away erosive flood gully, showing you where summer rains could potentially wash away anything on its pathway. I would recommend marking the building site at least 3 meters or 9 feet bigger all around. This is done for a variety of reasons. Firstly, you might need to move the home slightly so your bed or office chair does not end up on a harmful Curry grid or Hartman grid crossing, or a terrible energetic spot. That's created by wrong geometrical angle, by the way, of 2 or 3 underground water crossings. It's biogeometry. You'll also might need to have an access for wheelbarrow to move your natural building materials in and excavated soil out. Having a bit of clean space all around your building site is important. You will also need access to a car to get in and out. You will need clean and level space to position your water tank and cement mixer. If it is a hole you need to dig for your submerged home, know that you cannot move it afterwards. Measure 7 times and cut once is very true here. Really make sure that it is exact position and direction of view that you want your home to face towards. The vault in Siberia was positioned due south, but the mountain view was just a little bit westwards. If I were to dig that hole, which I did not, I would rather position it towards the view and not due south. Firewood is abundant, and the submerged Hobbit vault will be constantly close to the mean temperature of the earth, which is above freezing. I would rather stoke the fireplace a little extra, but have my entire glass facade face the view instead of facing the south. In Brazil, there was a really beautiful tree, and having a large kitchen window was important to frame that old growth giant. It all goes back to spending some time on the land, camping out, lighting up a fire if you can, do a little ceremony, connect with the spirit of the land and or creator. State your intentions and ask questions. Go to sleep with that and get the answers the following morning or soon after. Trust the messages that come. The next step would be to clean out the turfs and remove the topsoil. The turfs should be placed on one side for compost making in the future, and the topsoil should not be mixed in with the turf. Planning where you place your turf and topsoil is also very important, because you don't want to throw turfs in the way of the pathway of your wheelbarrow. 1,000 times to go around the pile during the next few months will waste time. You also don't want to throw a pile where a cement mixer will stand. Making 1,000 trips to and from your mixer, which is 30 feet to the left or the right, will waste time. You also don't want to throw your soil or sand where you cannot easily remove it afterwards. You do want to move your topsoil and turf closer to where you will need it at the end. And you will need to make 2 to 3 piles, so you do not walk too far with each load of turf or topsoil whilst you're removing it. In the following lesson, we'll get to transfer our home designs to our building site in order to be able to dig our foundations.